Now you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel. Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to Israel.
We Jews have been in the land of Israel since the times of biblical Joshua.
Who is we? No, really, who is we? You live in Israel, so I don't expect you to be able to provide genetic or ancestral receipts for your claims about us Jews, because those kinds of receipts are illegal in Israel without a court order and other special permissions. The Jerusalem Post explains, such a thing cannot exist as kits sold directly to the public, going on to say that they have possible effects on subjects and their families. Furthermore, the national implications of these tests could hold or affect, nice grammar Jerusalem Post, could hold or affect with Israel being a government-recognized Jewish state. Don't you just love when they say the quiet parts out loud? But since they won't let you get receipts for us Jews, I brought my own. Wow. So I, an Ashkenazi, have no genetic or ancestral ties to the region of historic Palestine. I, an Ashkenazi, have no genetic or ancestral ties to the region of historic Palestine. And yet Israel still claims it's my homeland, which I could move to and become a citizen of under the ironically named Law of Return.
This is a question that comes from outside of Israel. What is your opinion about the theory that Ashkenazim came from Khazar?
It seems relevant. It's quite obvious that white Jewish people, Ashkenazim from Europe, are not genetically, as much as I can tell, I'm not an expert, but they don't look the same like Arab Jews, people that came from Arab countries, and Ethiopians. I don't think there's a lot of, there may be some genetic relations, but there's a lot of genetic differences. And any theory that says that we're not genetically come from the same ancestors makes sense to me.
Ashkenaz is one of the Gentile nations. Now, 80 to 85% of today's so-called Jewry, those who claim to be Jews in the world today, 80 to 85% of them are what is known as Ashkenazi Jews. And an Ashkenazi Jew is so named because he primarily descends from this guy in the Bible named Ashkenaz, which is clearly listed as one of the Gentile nations. Now, the reason for this is that there was a nation of people who were Europeans, white people, known as the Khazars. And in the 8th century after Christ, the whole nation of the Khazars turned unto Judaism. They converted to the religion of Judaism. Of course, it was a false, Christ-rejecting religion. And for a few hundred years, the empire of the Khazars was a power in Eastern Europe, and they followed the religion of Judaism. But eventually they were defeated by the Russians, and they were scattered into Eastern Europe. And so a lot of the Eastern European Jews today are the descendants of the Khazars.
And so a lot of the Eastern European Jews today are the descendants of the Khazars.
From 21 until 48, I carried a Palestinian passport. There was no such thing in this area as Jews and Arabs and Palestinians. There were Jews and Arabs.
Don't you... I mean, you deny that there was a Palestine Arab people before, but there is now a Palestine liberation movement. The history of liberation movements are that they grow. Won't this one grow and become in end, in fact, your biggest enemy?
I don't say there are no Palestinians, but I say there is no such thing as a distinct Palestinian people of all the Palestinians who live in Jordan. Why have the Palestinians in the West Bank become more Palestinians since the 5th of June 67 than they were before? Why didn't they set up a Palestinian country in addition to Jordan? Supposing your premise is right, then what should they have done? They should have set up another independent Palestine and fought from there. They didn't do that. They adopted the fact that they are in Jordan. They've adopted the Jordanian citizens. They are the majority in Jordan. They are in parliament. They are in government. What has happened since? Why have they become more Palestinian conscious since the War of '67?
How in Israel there's a law that bans Israeli Jews from marrying Arabs, Palestinians, Muslims. And they say that this is based on the morale of their holy book, right? But I'm about to show you how this just goes to show that these people don't know the book. And really this law, like about everything else in their regime, is based in white supremacy, racism, and ultimately mid-20th century eugenics. Because the thing is that the most famous and beloved of the Israelites and the Israelite kings, they weren't purebloods. Solomon's mother was a Canaanite. David's grandmother was also a Canaanite, a Moabite to be specific. And a Moabite so famous, she got a whole book in the Bible named after her, the Book of Ruth. What's more is that Ruth and Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, both of these women were widows. And the widow is the carrier of the greatest secret in alchemy. The Freemasons are going to be pretty pissed about me revealing this.
We Jews have been in the land of Israel since the times of biblical Joshua.
Who is we?
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Racha HaKodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to the other elders and brethren, you believers of this truth. Shalom to you sisters, shalom to the elect. Anyway, I want to go on this video. I did one similar to this maybe a year or two ago, but then there's more clips. And I kind of let the intro speak for itself, but what I will do, I'll go into some scriptures, maybe a few, and then let AI do the rest. This is John 8:32, and this is something we've always known. And I want to go into this woman towards the end that said that the Israelites never had pure blood because of the mother, and it's about genetics of the father, right? John 8:32, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, right? The truth shall make you free, which my whole point is this contradicts their theory because they believe it's of the woman's side. So if that's of the case, that rules them out there as well, right? If they have the root, when you go back to Boaz and Ruth, right, that rules them out right there. Now, when you go to Ruth, the reason why we say she was a heathen is I did, more research, or, all the brothers did. But when you look at Naomi took that child as soon as Ruth had it. That was a tradition of a surrogate mother. That's all that was. If Ruth was an Israelite, she'd have still been able to keep that child and raise that child of that lineage, and it's been well known that the women of Israel, if it was a woman of Israel, that you would do that. In some cases, if the child, when you go like to Abraham and Sarah, Abraham had Hagar, right? And then the child went to Hagar, but the Lord was dividing the nations, which came along later with Isaac, when Isaac and Rebekah had Jacob and Esau, right? Anyway, Numbers 18 and I guess it's supposed to be 1 and 18. Let's go to Numbers 1 verse 18. It says, where am I at? And they assembled the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and to declare their pedigree, right, after their families, right, by the house of their fathers, which families, fathers, pedigree, patriarch, it all goes the same. So let me go to pedigree, genealogy tablet chart. Okay, from, let me go here, foot. It says here descent, right, which basically comes down by the fathers. They got so many definitions. So anyway, this is why we say that by the pedigree, by the house of their fathers. So anyway, so let's go to Habakkuk 2. And because of the nature of the video, I'm not going to go so long on it. That's why, like I said, I put the intro in there. Habakkuk 2, right? It says, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. Right? And the Lord answered me, said, write the vision and make it plain upon the tables, that he may run and readeth it. For the vision is yet for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come to pass. It will surely not tarry. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. But the just shall live by faith. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, right? He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. But gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth to him all people. And that's where I want to go at, because there was a clip in there with Dr. Brown who said that, which Dr. Brown was right on that Ashkenazi that was an adopted name. But at the end of the day, you know, he's not even likely a biblical Israelite. And this is what they've done. And this is why they will steal a nation, right? Pollute a nation, and then call them after that land, like they did Africa, like they did America, right? Leoscivius Africanus and Amerigos Vespucci, right? And the bitter land, right? So what they've managed to do is everywhere they've taken, even Russia, right? They've went around and conquered the world and named it after themselves and said, this is who we are. So why wouldn't that be any different with religions, right? The original Christians would have been so-called black, by the way. Then as they hijacked and stole everything, they put themselves up to say that it's them. 50 years from now, probably already happening, Michael Jackson and Prince, they'll show them as white, right? You'll see a lot of so-called black people in the 30s and 40s in their pictures, and they'll have them in black and white, and they will have that kind of, their hair kind of straightened, and they'll make themselves make the pictures look white, just like Tom Jones. Then you find out, well, he's not. Andre the Giant, right? Then you can see his hair and see he's not technically white. Now, anyway, this woman was talking about the Palestinians and how they named them a particular way. Basically, what she's saying, they named them that way just to make them the majority. This is what they did to us, and said we were African Americans, which were not African nor American, but they named that and put that on us to make us the minority, while they remain the majority, right? This is what they do. They're very crafty and shrewd in their thinking, right? So this is why you'll see Russia, you'll see Europe, you'll see America, you'll see all these places. But then in some of these places, they'll name them after the Israelites, like far as the Chesapeake Bay, and, you know, they'll name certain things to give them credit, to say, okay, this is yours, but we own it all, right? So this is what they do, you know. So This is the same thing with religion. They said, well, we're Jews now. We're Christians, right? We're ahead of the Christians, but we'll make black people, so-called black people, Christian. We'll effeminize the men. We'll take all the heritage that came from true Christianity, which is no such thing as Christianity. That was a word that was made up pretty much. I mean, it just means Christ, right? Which Christ, follower of Christ, which that word Christ is not even a true word, even of the Son of the Most High. But this is what they did through media, through all different, all kind of dogmas. And they put that on us, man. Let's go to a little bit of, let's see here. In the 1800s, it says in 1800s, this is AI, the region historically known as Palestine, which includes present-day Israel, Palestine. See, when you see the word Israel today, we showing you how they phase everything out. Now they'll say Israel, Palestine, and now Palestine ain't even mentioned, right? Was predominantly Arab and both Muslim and Christian populations, which was a mixture of the so-called Palestinians and Israelites. That's who was in that land, right? Because you had Arabs, but you had Israelites who converted to Islam, right? Who became Muslim. Just like today, you got a so-called bunch of Negroes who converted to Islam, right? So this has been going on, and with Christian populations. So a lot of people will say, a lot of Christians will say, well, at the end of the day, before slave Christianity, you had Christians already in other regions. Yeah, but they wasn't following the same plantation Christianity. And if that Christianity was okay and they were following it, why did the Jesuits go around conquering them, giving them a new Christianity? I'm not doubting that there was some form of Christianity, but not the Christianity that you see today. Again, that's just Judaism, which believes in the Messiah. So when you look back, when it says Jews and Gentiles, or Jews and Greeks, he went to the Jew first because why? The Jews, a lot of them didn't believe in the Messiah. And he needed to convert them to the resurrection of the Messiah. This is why the book of Acts says, I believe the 12th chapter, it says, let me get that real quick. Let's go to Acts 11:26. It says, and when he had found him, he brought him up to Antioch, right? And it came to pass that the whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch, right? Because you had Jews already, and then you had Christian, right? So what made, and this is the whole point in Romans 3, he was talking about faith. Paul, I believe, was talking about converting to the faith of the Messiah, the law of faith. He was talking about faith in the Messiah. That's how you're converted. But they were still Jews. Somehow these people in this other land has made a separation from Jew to Christian to the point of not just religion but ethnicity. And the ethnicity was still Jew and Gentile, was still Jew and Christian. They were still the same. But they said, hey, you blacks, you're Christians, and we're going to set white Christian leaders over you, right? And then you become black Christians, and we'll teach that the Christ is all loving and everybody will be together, but we will remain over here and keep ourselves Jews. Yeah, that's what happened. Let's go back here. The Arab, both Muslim, Christian population, this area was the part of the Ottoman Empire and was often referred to as Ottoman Palestine or Southern Syria, right? So we see that this land wasn't even called that until the converts adopted that and brought it over there and said, okay, this is what this is, and we'll make your Palestinians, not even Muslim, but Palestinians, will make you the minority. And that's what happened. The vast majority of the residents were Arab-speaking Muslims. That's why I put that clip in there in 1897, right? Christians who have lived in the region for many centuries, they engage agriculture, trade, and various crafts. There was one of these men who said, Mark Twain said, before 1948, it was a desert and cactuses. Yeah, that's what the same thing they said about America, meaning you're nothing, right? You're just spoiled. These people are the only ones allowed to do that. They're the only ones allowed to read Ezekiel 9 and 4 and blow up hospitals with men, women, and little children, maids, as Ezekiel 9 and 4 says. They're the only ones allowed to say, okay, we don't agree with intermarriage, but everybody gets on us. But these same phony-ass Christians will not go and get on them for the things that they're saying about Ezekiel 9 and that we're under them, right? And that intermarriage is illegal. Where's Ty Jackson? Where's Vocab Malone with all this stuff, man? Should you stop being concerned about Hebrew Israelites and straighten up your people that you claim are the true people of God? Anyway, the small members of groups including Druze, Bannerins, and various Christians entity. I need to look this up. I never heard of this. Who are these? The Druze, one people, and Muslim sect centered in the mountains of Lebanon. Okay. I just wanted to know who that was. Okay, let me see about this. See what this says. An Arab of the desert, of tribes of the nomadic Arabs. Okay, got you. So, you had some Israelites in there. You had our people in there. You had Palestinians in there, you know. Christians, you know, so, you know, which means you had Israelites. So, anyway, the major demographic shift began in the late 1800s, as I put the clip in there, when the start of Zionist immigration, the first Ayah began in 1882, but even by, that's why it's called gradualism, even by 1900s, Jews still comprise only of 8 to 10% of the population. The Arab population remained the clear majority through the 19th century. It is worth noting that the modern national identities as we understand them today were still developing during this period. The concept of Palestinian national identity, like many nationalist identities in the region, became more defined in the 20th century, particularly in a response to Zionist immigration and later political developments. Yep. Let's look up this word Zionist. We all know what it is. You can go deep into that. But it says one who advocates Jewish colonization in Palestine. Okay. We can see this happening around the world. Real quick, I kind of do this when I do these videos. I want you to look at this word as I look it up. This is what it says. I put this word here. It says here, extortionate, right? Extortionate money lending. I wonder how long they're going to keep this up. I wonder when they're going to change that, because it's been there for the last few years that I looked this stuff up. Extortionate, characterized by extortion, oppressive, excessive. Yeah. The scripture says extortioners shall not inherit the kingdom of heaven. That's what the scripture says, 1 Corinthians 6 and 9. Anyway, that's all I have on that. Shalom.